It's important to have purpose. Like I remember back when I was in high school deciding what I wanted to do with my life. I was at a crossroads. I went to a really prestigious public high school. All of my friends went on to college. In fact, 99% of the people who went to my high school got accepted into college. So
Mm,
I was at like 0.1% that didn't even go to college despite all the pressure because I didn't want to take on any student loan debt. And my parents are also working class immigrants. So I looked at the news every day. I was like, it doesn't make sense. People are taking on student loan debt. They come out unemployed or underemployed. Like in my heart, it just didn't feel right. And I had
mhm.
a lot of pressure from everyone, teachers, guidance counselor, parents, classmates, friends, just like, just go, Annie. You're smart. You're a straight A student. Why not? Why not go in undecided and just figure it out there? And I remember at one point, I was actually considering maybe they're right. Adults know what is best for us. Adults know how the real world works. And as I was contemplating this thought, I hear this loud voice in my head. I've never heard of this voice before. It almost sounded like Zeus, right? And it just goes, Annie, if you go to college, this will be the single biggest regret in your entire life. The biggest regret. And I was like, what is that? And I was so scared, but I ended up just following the voice anyway.
Welcome to Unleash Thyself, a podcast where we journey into the depths of personal transformation, spirituality, and growth. I am Konstantin Morun, and today we're joined by Annie Margarita Yang. Her story is not just one of success, but of transformation and resilience. By 28, she had authored two Amazon bestsellers, The 5-Day Job Search and 1001 Ways to Save Money, challenging the status quo and offering actionable insights for navigating today's tumultuous economic landscape. Her journey from working minimum wage jobs to becoming a celebrated knowledge broker, podcaster, mentor, and author is a testament to the power of self belief and the courage to follow one's heart. In a world drowning in information but starved for wisdom, Annie stands out as a beacon of practical guidance and transformation. She's dedicated to helping the younger generations overcome the daunting challenges of student loans, underemployment, and financial uncertainties with strategies that are not just theoretical but tested and true. Today, Annie will share with us the pivotal moments of her journey, the importance of listening to your inner voice, and how mindfulness can be a game changer in your job search. We will explore her unique approach to financial freedom, the actionable insights from her books, and how anyone can start making significant strides towards their personal and professional goals in just 5 days. I have a small favor to ask. Please subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your engagement helps us continue to bring these transformative stories to light. Thank you, and let's begin. Welcome, beautiful souls. I have with me Annie Margarita Yang. It's such a pleasure to have you with us. I cannot wait to have a beautiful conversation. So, welcome to the show.
Constantine, thanks for having me on today.
Yes, Annie, you do so many amazing things. There's so many topics and directions we can go in. But I want to start with a topic that's so dear to me because it was a huge catalyst in my life to being to what I am today, which is purpose, following your heart, finding your why. Let's talk a bit about that and how you see that impacting your life and the life of those you get a chance to impact as well.
I think it's really important to listen to that voice that you hear in your head. It's like this push, it's this nudge. I actually hear voices in my head telling me what I should be doing next. Sometimes it's a little scary, but I remind myself to have courage and to just trust in God that I'm on the right path and that, even though it's a little scary, things don't seem logical, practical, it doesn't make any sense at all. I end up following this voice that I hear anyway. Because if I don't, I find that life actually doesn't work out in my way. It's like you can make plans, but God then decides, I'm just going to ruin this plan. I'm just going to do what I want with Annie's life. So it's important to have purpose. Like I remember back when I was in high school deciding what I wanted to do with my life, I was at a crossroads. I went to a really prestigious public high school. All of my friends went on to college. In fact, 99% of the people who went to my high school got accepted into college. So
Mm.
I was at like 0.1% that didn't even go to college despite all the pressure because I didn't want to take on any student loan debt. And my parents are also working class immigrants. So I mean, I looked at the news every day. I was like, it doesn't make sense. People are taking on student loan debt. They come out unemployed or underemployed. Like in my heart, it just didn't feel right. And I had
Mhm.
a lot of pressure from everyone, teachers, guidance counselor, parents, classmates, friends, just like, just go, Annie. You're smart. You're a straight A student. Why not? Why not go in undecided and just figure it out there? And I remember at one point, I was actually considering maybe they're right. Adults know what is best for us. Adults know how the real world works. And as I was contemplating this thought, I hear this loud voice in my head. I've never heard of this voice before. It almost sounded like Zeus, right? And it just goes, Annie, if you go to college, this will be the single biggest regret in your entire life. The biggest regret. And I was like, what is that? And I was so scared, but I ended up just following the voice anyway.
Wow. Wow. That's beautiful, Annie. Thank you for sharing that and going right for it. And I'm someone that's always been up here. Based on how I grew up, again, lots of pressures to go to school, do well, follow a traditional career. And more recently, in the last few years, I've started to pay attention to those other voices. Some people call them gut feelings, intuition, whatever name you want to give it. And you're absolutely right. It's like there's a knowing within you for what the path is. If you call it God talking to your higher self, the universe, it doesn't really matter. It's there within you for you to tap into it. And it sounds like you had a bit of a stronger presence of that voice within you to push you down that path. But what would you say to people right now that either like myself are very caught up in the head or don't know how to tap into those inner knowings?
If something doesn't feel right, it's not right. That's basically what I have come to learn. And the reason why people struggle to tap into this feeling is because even with the smaller messages, the more subtle ones that don't really make the biggest difference in your life, they don't even listen to those. Like, oh, maybe today, if you wake up late, it's actually fine if you wake up late because let's say it was like the day of 9/11, right? A lot of people did wake up late and then they didn't go to work in time. Or some people suddenly like had the flu and they chose not to go to work. They avoided death on 9/11. Like those little protections that you're given. A lot of people they choose to ignore it. They follow their head. And so I tell myself, "Oh, if I'm late today and I'm stuck in traffic, it's okay. It was meant to work out this way." Like if I missed a train, actually, thank goodness I missed a train. I'm actually really grateful. So even for all the little things that give me a lot of frustration when things didn't work out my way, I'm just like, oh, things were meant to work out this way. Like my spirit guides, my angels, they're all watching over me to make sure everything is right on track. So if you just look at your life in this perspective, I think you would trust your intuition a lot more and you would hear those voices a lot louder because I used to not hear them as often. It wasn't until maybe 2 years ago I hear them more and more and more. It's a little scary. I'm gonna be very honest because
Yes.
it's dead accurate. Dead, dead accurate because I remember, one day a couple months ago, I was driving to my piano lesson and that particular day, I was driving around in circles looking for parking for 30 minutes. This never happens. Normally, I find parking really easily. And then as I'm like driving around looking for parking, I have to use the toilet. I have to use the toilet. And I'm just like, oh my God, I really have to go. And I hear these voices in my head. They're just saying, before you sit down on that toilet seat, you have to look and make sure she has toilet paper. I'm like, why are they telling me this? Right. And they repeat it over and over again. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I got you. I got you. I hear you. I understand. And then as I park, I get out of the car, I'm walking to a place, I still hear it. Make sure there's toilet paper. Make sure there's toilet paper. I go up, I use the toilet, completely forgetting to make sure there's toilet paper. Then I look, there's no toilet paper in her bathroom. She ran out of toilet paper. And I was like, this intuition is so accurate.
And such a beautiful example too, but also in a way trivia, right? It's like, okay, there's no toilet paper, sure. more uncomfortable, whatever. But it's beautiful to see how it shows up in different parts of our life. We don't have to have expectations around it. It just shows up. Listen if you want to, and if you don't, you made the choice not to listen.
I didn't listen.
And then, you had to pay the consequences. And it's funny because that's this conversation I have with people often, and then they challenge me, and it's like, well, if everything has a reason and a purpose, and everything is meant to be, and you have these guides helping you out, then where is free will? And you just proved it. You just gave a great example. Free will is in the choice you make. I mean, you get to a fork in the road. You can choose left or right. One path is going to give you a better outcome. Another one might not. You still learn along the way, but that's where your free choice is coming in. And now, if you factor in, like you said, the voices, the gut feelings, the intuition, guess what? When you get to the fork in the road, as some of those, you will have guidance to pick the best path for you.
The better path. Like
Yeah,
there is a destiny. It's scary. I don't like the concept of destiny and fate because I'm just like, where is my free will? Like all the things I choose to do they not matter because things are going to end up the same way anyway? And then I realized destiny is actually like a current. It's almost like a river. It pushes on you. It'll push you a certain direction and you can either choose to go with that direction or you can choose to fight against that current. But
yes.
I know for a fact if you choose to fight against that current, nothing will work your way.
Yeah,
Nothing.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and some people may have years in their lives where they fight the current and they can still make it with a struggle, but they make it to whatever destination. But then they realize that if they had gone with the current, like you mentioned, it would have been so much easier, so much less pain, so much less struggle, so much less anything negative, really.
Yeah, that's right. I would just want to give an example because um this is this is also wild. I haven't shared this story on many podcast interviews, but because this is more about like following your heart and your intuition.
Hey, it's Konstantin here, and I want to take a brief moment to truly thank you for being a part of this incredible journey of transformation. You are the reason we are creating this content. I see you and I appreciate you. Your support truly means the world to me. I want to ask you for a small favor. I'd love for you to join our mission by hitting like, subscribe, or leaving a thoughtful comment or review. Your engagement helps others discover these insights, and together we can continue to unlock the power of authenticity and personal transformation. And if you want to reach out directly to me, send me an email at konstantin@unleashthyself.com. I value any and all feedback. Thank you for being a part of this movement. Now, back to the episode.
So sometime back in November 2022, I was trying to fall asleep. It's like 1 a.m. at night. And I hear like 10 voices in my head. Annie, you have to write your next book. What do you mean I have to write my next book? I've already written one. One is enough. And they're like, no, no. It's really important. You have to write this book. It's about how to land a job offer in 5 days. And then I was like, there's already so many career books out there. There's no point in dumping another one out there. Right. I'm just adding to the pile of existing career books. It's like all the advice out there is already out there. Like how to write a resume, how to make your LinkedIn profile, how to interview. It's been done over and over again. I don't need to write this book. And they were so pushy. They were just like, no, everything in the last 10 years of your life have been leading up to this point for you to write this book. And then all of a sudden I hear like, you need to put this into the book. And then I was like, it's like 1 a.m. Can I sleep? Can you like come back in the morning or like maybe find someone else to write this book? Because I never spoke back. I always just listened to it. And I was like, I must be imagining this. But finally I spoke back. I was like, go find someone else to write this book. And they're just like, no, you're the only one who can write this book. We specifically chose you for this job because while someone else can write the book, you're the only one we know that's actually going to follow through to write the book and then sell the book. I was like, okay, fine. So I got up and then I started writing down the book. I finished the book in 10 days because I heard it. I basically dictated it into my phone. I recorded it and then I used AI to transcribe it into the manuscript. After, the manuscript though is really rough. It has the ums, the ahs, and then I have to edit it so that it's more organized. So then what happened after is, well, I have to start fixing it up so that it's even in a state where I can hand it to an editor, right? I can't just hand what I had to the editor. It was really rough. And so I was taking an hour a day to do it, but it's like a side project. I didn't want to work on it. And then one day, I live in a condo building we the whole building had no heat or hot water. It just suddenly had no heat or hot water. So I was just like, okay, I understand with no heat or hot water, I have to maybe stay at a hotel. And since it's out of my routine, I could use all of that time to write. But then by the time I left the house and had new accommodation, I decided I don't feel like writing. I don't want to work on this, you know? So I come back after 4 days and then um, I had no internet. I came back when I started working. I sat down to start working. My internet got cut off. And I was like, I was telling the guys, I was like, this isn't funny. I have a job to do, like my actual work that I get paid to do, and I can't work on the book right now. I have to do my actual job. And so I was like, you guys can't do this to me, right? So I went to the public library where there's Wi-Fi to work. 12 o'clock noon. So that we're 3 hours into this. There was a power outage at the library. And then when the power came on, there was no Wi-Fi. And then I was like, "Yeah, okay, guys, I get your message. I gotta work on this book." So everything you can see from this story, it's a really long and thorough story, but, like, they were really fighting against me to force me to write this book. They were fighting me, basically.
Giving you a choice every step of the way, but really not at
Not
some parts.
exactly.
So it sounds like you have some really, really powerful guides on your side, on your path. So let's talk about this book really quick then. So what did it mean to you to write this book, get it out there, and see the reception it has received? Because I'm curious to see if obviously hindsight is 2020, you got to see the impact it has. But has it like made it easier for you to understand why they did what they did and push you down this path?
Yeah, I can see why, because, there was this one point in my life when I was working as a foot fetish model. I was letting men, lick and touch my feet for $40 for 10 minutes. And it was the most traumatic experience I ever had. Like, I was so mentally, spiritually broken to the point where I was eating so much sugar every day just to disassociate from my body because, like, I didn't wanna be in my body. I wanted to, like, just numb the pain, but when you numb the pain, you numb everything, not just the pain, but the happiness
Yes.
as well, right? So I was doing that at some point to the point where my sugar level was so high that I was, like, borderline pre-diabetic at 19 years old. So I always thought about that experience and I was like, why did that happen to me? Like, why did I have to have an abusive, manipulative ex-boyfriend who convinced me to do the foot fetish modeling? Like, why did that experience have to traumatize me so badly? And then I questioned it because it's been like maybe 9 years since that happened. I'm over it. I got over it. It doesn't hurt me at all now and I can talk about it openly. But I still always wonder why did that happen to me? And then when I got the message, you have to write this book. And not only that, you have to pull the skeletons out of the closet and include that story in your book and admit to the world that you did foot fetish modeling. Um, that I realized I had this experience because I have to tell women, don't do OnlyFans. It's not worth it to sell your body to make money. The moment you sell your body, that's it. It's out there in the world, everyone can see it. You basically ruin your future financially. Like, what if in your 30s you want to get married with a nice husband and have kids and, have a really traditional, good life? Nobody will ever see you in that light that you wish. Once you develop the reputation, that's it. And it's just not worth that, you know? But if I never had that experience, who am I to just come and say, don't do OnlyFans? Who's going to listen to me when I say that? The only reason it has weight is because I experienced it myself.
So powerful, Annie. And that's proof that vulnerability and authenticity, which comes right after, which is how you appear to me now, how the energy feels, that's powerful because that builds connection, that builds trust with the audience, whoever the audience is, right? And then it allows you to come from a place of not necessarily telling people what to do, but hey, here's what I've gone through. Here's what you should consider. It's up to you. You'll make the choice in the end. And that's so, so powerful. It reminds me of part of my story where, I fought depression for a very long time, anxiety, burnout. And I was so good at hiding it, at least in my mind. And I was so scared to share the story. And now that's part of who I am. I mean, that's who I am. I overcame that. And now I get to help others overcome the same thing. If I hadn't been there, I couldn't. Same as you, right? If you
And other
hadn't
people
been there,
won't listen to you. They won't listen to you unless they know you've been through it.
exactly. And they won't know you've been through it unless you're open, right? Which is what the message came through to you. It's like you got to be open because you could come from a place of knowing, but if the other person doesn't feel it because you're not authentic, you're not vulnerable, if they don't know about it, then it still doesn't matter.
Exactly.
So beautiful. So why that book? Have you ever found out the why behind it? Like, why was it so important for that book to come out when it did?
We are going to have a major economic collapse. Very, very bad economic collapse. Almost like a 1929 Great Depression style economic collapse where people are going to lose their jobs. In the Great Depression, we had 25% unemployment rate. There were, I think, 9,000 banks that went bankrupt.
Hmm.
There were lots of bank holidays as well. And because my special gift from God is like I'm good with money and finances, I've been ordered to write this book because so many people will lose their jobs. They won't know how to land a job quickly and get on their feet. So that's why I had to write this book. But it hasn't. I've been hearing that it will be big. This book will sweep the country. It will be like an overnight thing. But as much as I've been following the marketing plan, I was given a 50-page marketing plan as well to implement, if you believe that too. I,
Beautiful.
I have a 50-page marketing plan that I'm supposed to execute, and I've been doing that. But the sales haven't been coming in as I thought it would. And the message for that was simply the iron's not hot yet. The iron's just getting warm. I was like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful reminder there as well. I mean, we will get in a couple of parts, but this last piece touches close to heart because when you put something out there, there's always an expectation, perhaps in the back of your mind, of how well it should do, how fast it should grow. And I relate that with the podcast, let's say, right? Like when I put a podcast out. And it wasn't until I sat and realized that it's really, like you said, the timing might be off a bit, but also that everything takes time to be great, right? Like you can't be great overnight and great success. Sure, it can happen. You got that message, but overnight, if you look at the grand scheme of things of how let's say how infinite time is. I mean, overnight for us may be like, oh, from today till next week. When overnight could also be from this year to a few years from now.
Yeah. Everything is actually, they actually like build under the surface. Things aren't tangible yet until it's like a snap when it's overnight, but I actually just the energy that's not tangible that you can't see. It's all like bubbling under the surface until it comes to a rapid boil. For some reason, it's like that. It takes a long time for that energy to build and turn into something physical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can definitely relate to that. So, what are some parts of your book that you feel are paramount for people to know and a reason for them to pick up this book to prepare themselves either for a current situation or something coming up?
One of the things people need to know is how to oh my gosh. I get pushback on this.
No,
But
let's
I
let's
I
go.
tell I tell people, "You want a job quickly, you need to apply to 50 jobs a day." It works. I have found out you see, the way I've been applying to jobs is I was always applying to 50 jobs a day, so that's why even though I don't have an accounting degree, I got an accounting job with no accounting degree in 5 days. And I did this 3 times in a row, so I know it's, like, something I'm doing, it's not just pure luck, right? And so I tell people to do this. They don't believe me. I thought it was just common sense that if you want a job quickly, the more numbers, the higher the numbers and the more rejection you get, but the higher the chance someone says, yes, I'll give you a job. And you only need one job offer. I'm not asking you to get 10 job offers. You're not building a business here. You're just working as an employee. You need one employer to tell you yes. And so if you apply to 300 in a week, then one out of the 300 is going to say yes, that's success. But the problem is people take 6 months to apply for 300 jobs. So the average job seeker takes 6 months to successfully land an offer. If you read up on that statistic, that's the truth. But I asked many people, how many jobs did you have to apply to before you got an offer in 6 months? And they tell me, oh, about 300. I was like, we're both applying to the same amount of jobs. You're just spreading yours out over 6 months, right? I'm
Condensing
not
your
doing anything
timeline.
different. I'm just shortening that time frame.
I love that. And when you are looking for a new job, either you're unemployed or you're working somewhere, yeah, what's stopping you from applying for as many jobs as you want? And I know one thing that's stopping people, I know from my own experience and people in my life, are limiting beliefs within themselves. Like, let's take your example. You apply for an accounting job without a degree, without the required prerequisites, so to speak, and you got the job. I would imagine most people, including myself here in the past, so my old self, would look at that and say, well, I'm not fit for an accounting job. And then you start going down the whatever lists and disqualify yourself without giving yourself any chance whatsoever. So you're doing the job for whoever the recruiter is.
Yeah,
When in
you're doing the
reality,
recruiter's job, exactly.
right? But
Yeah.
with your own biases, right? And you don't know what they want and what they really need. And when I've been hiring in past roles at Microsoft or in the past with my previous company, the prerequisites were just a nice to have in many cases. Sure, there are some fixed ones depending on how specific the job is, but in many cases, if I connect with a person, if I can see potential in them, if I can see that they'll be a fit culturally, then I can ignore. Like in your case, you don't have a degree, that's fine. I mean, schooling is not everything. It's your life experience, who you are as a person, all those things that we don't value enough in ourselves.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. You worded that perfectly. And then one of the things I had to talk about in the book because, like, well, what is so special about the 5-day job search you've been asking? And one of the things I guess is special about it is those limiting beliefs. Because I had the limiting beliefs. I'm like, I'm literally an accountant with no accounting degree. And then during my searches, I actually had recruiters calling me up and hiring managers as well, telling me, "You're so unqualified to do this. Like, why did you even apply? You don't have an accounting degree. We've been doing this for 10 years, and we know for a fact you'll never make more than $55,000 a year because based on our experience of hiring people, that's how people like you end up." And then I just had to say back, I was like, "Well, I know what I want. I want at least $70,000 a year," right? I'm asking for way more than what you're telling me I'm capable of. And I know what I want because I want to save for a house and I need to qualify for the mortgage. I can save for the house on $45,000 a year. I'm really frugal, but I wouldn't qualify for the mortgage unless I have $70,000. I ran the numbers already, right? So I need to be prepared because they go 2 years back when you apply for a loan. They look at your finances for 2 years back. So I'm already preparing now for what I want in the future. And they were just like, well, good luck with that. I was like, great, thank you very much. And then I just kept applying anyway. You know, I don't care what people think. Actually, what I did was so for some reason this always works for me. When I want something, I write it down on a piece of paper and then I stick it on the wall and then I'm just like, that's what I want and that's what I'm going to get. So I wrote down on a piece of paper $70,000. I stuck it on the wall right above my computer. And I told my husband, that's what we're going to get. We're going to get a house, you know? And then 3 days later, I got a job offer for $80,000. So I got 10K more than what I even needed. And I was like, this is really a blessing. This has happened all throughout my life. My husband and I, we have a list of joint prayers. I wrote this list like maybe 5 years ago. I totally forgot about the list, but then I remember 5 years ago, we were always like praying every day in front of his scroll. He's a Buddhist. He has a scroll that we have. And we looked back at it just during New Year, actually, so 2 weeks ago, and we're looking at it. I was like, a lot of these came true. I didn't even remember that one of the things I said is, "I wanna look naturally beautiful. I want to buy a house. I want to be able to work from home," which ended up coming true without me remembering. I wrote it down. I was like, "Wait, I wrote this down?" Yeah, I wanted to work from home. I wanted a successful YouTube channel. So basically all those things that I wrote down 5 years ago, they all came true.
Yes, such a beautiful story. And some people may think, wow, that's woo woo. I mean, not on this podcast, but in general, because I'm like, wow, you just put something there and you manifest it. But you take the actions to manifest it because when you know what your vision is, when you don't accept the BS that others are telling you, right? Like in the case, you don't allow them to put you down, which then results in you putting yourself down, then what's going to happen? Like if you look from a psychological point of view, and I'm passionate about psychology and I study it a lot, it resonates from there too. It's not just manifesting because what you're doing is you're essentially telling your subconscious mind you want that, and it has to look for proof of it. You may not have proof yet, but it will come into your life because you're now blocking away the things that don't lead to whatever you put up on the sign, and this will lead to it. That's why visions work so well. Not just, sitting there, I'm like, I wish this will happen, and then sitting on the couch and doing nothing. But when you pair up, like you said, your vision, your notes, your prayers with the action, I mean, that's it. That's all you need.
Yeah, everything will always work out if you follow this, but you got to take the action as well.
But yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why people are, law of attraction, manifestation, it doesn't work. I'm like, yes, because it still requires you to, well, believe in yourself and take the action. Is it truly what you want? Then you can put the action steps in there. And you don't have to know that's the beautiful part. You don't have to know the action steps. You don't have to know how it shows up, right? You don't have to say, oh, this is the job. I'm applying for 300, but this is the one I want. No, just apply. You can have your favorites, but then let it unfold the way it unfolds, right? Because that's really
That's
what we've been
right. That's
talking about
right.
right now. It's like trusting that it will happen because you're putting your effort, and ideally not having expectation around time, right? I know your book is around landing a job in 5 days, so there's a bit of an expectation around the time. But how have you seen that work for other people? Like, the 5 days.
I've seen other people do it in 2 weeks. That's the average time it takes, but that's still
Yeah,
better than 6 months. So two
absolutely.
weeks is actually the time. So I have to take the time to teach people how to do it. Like I have to prepare people. I have to like let's say 5 sessions is like 1 session a week, that's 5 weeks. But I don't say, "Oh, the 5-week job search," right? Like you don't I say the countdown for your job doesn't start until the day you start applying. Because unless you started applying, how is that a job search? You're just preparing for the job search and then you've applied, right?
Yes.
So so actually I only count the 2 weeks after they started applying for the first job. But like the prep work, like doing the resume, the LinkedIn profile, interview coaching, the mindset shift. Some people have major mindset issues. They get hung up on little things and then they keep coming back. But like for example, there's one guy, I know he's so smart. He's so smart, but he was just so hung up. He's like, but what certificates do I need? Annie, tell me what certificate do I need to do well in my job search for accounting? And then I was like, can you stop getting so hung up over your missing certificates and just focus on the fact of you can tell the employer I want to do this job instead of like saying I need to get a certain certificate before I can get the job. So I had to work on those kind of like issues that they have in their mind. And then they can start applying for jobs. But it takes on average 2 weeks. But the one person I know who got a job in 5 days, she was actually, this is the most surprising thing. She's a stay at home mother. She's a stay at home mom for 30 years. So you would think that like
Oh, yeah.
she's out of the workforce. She should she out of all people should be the one taking a very long time to get a job, right? Because she's been out of the workforce for 30 years. But she's a really devout Christian. Her husband's a pastor. So they're spiritually, I think, like already very aligned. They don't have many limiting beliefs, and they have the ability to see reality for what it is. So like there's no mindset work to be done there, right? And so what they did was they read my book, and then they paid a friend who knows how to write resumes to write the resume for them. And then the husband simply went around to everyone in his network. My wife is no longer going to be a stay-at-home mom. Anybody want to look at her resume and give her a job? And then someone in his network was like, "Whoa, gladly take her. We love her resume." And then they gave her a job in 5 days. And then she started working there, and her new coworkers were like, "We have never seen anyone in this office get a job that quickly. We take at least a month to hire someone. We hired you in 5 days." So it works.
It works. It works. Like you said, it's all about intentionality, and like you said, limiting beliefs. That's a big focus in my life as well, as I've overcome quite a few myself, but also in working with others, coaching them, mentoring them. It comes up and up again because it's so easy to get caught in old programmings, old ways of thinking, old limitations that were imposed on you without your realization when you were young, and then you just perpetuate those. And those are such great examples.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about mindfulness in job searching. I know that's another topic that you and I wanted to chat about. How have you seen that? Of course, in your case, it's pretty clear. But in the case of people in your life that you work with, like the example you gave of this lady, of course, spirituality was big in it, mindfulness was big in it. But how do you see that tying in all together with job searching?
So mindfulness as in like being present? What
Well,
do you
I
think?
feel like, Yes, being present, being intentional, bringing spirituality into it, if you may, practices, meditation, breath work, any of that stuff.
It all ties in. I think it's really it's that focus, the high focus on what you want and being able to see it so clearly in your head before it actually happens. That's the important thing. When I work with people who take a very long time to land a job, the problem is they keep visualizing the things they don't want.
Yes.
Their mind literally just keeps going back to those repeating ruminating questions that they have. Like, for example, this one guy was like, but what if they ask me how many audits I've done and I say I've done 18 during my time there, and then they really, like, try to investigate me, and, they call up my past employer and ask him, "Did he really do 18 audits?" And then I had to ask him, "Dude, this scenario that's playing out in your head, you think people play, like, I don't know, career Nazi or something?" Like, they have the time to, like, ask every little tiny detail and just double check it's true? I'm asking for an estimate here. And he's like, "But I don't know if the estimate I'm giving you is accurate." I was like, "I guarantee you nobody's going to ask you if you really did 18 audits." But he was replaying this thing in his head, and so many of the people I was helping, they have their own version of this thing that they replay in their head of this, like, "Oh my gosh, what if they find me out?" Or, like, worst case scenario kind of
Yeah.
scenario. Yeah.
Well, exactly. And what you touched on is very, very powerful there, because the same way you could visualize what you received, what you got over the years and over the days you implemented that, for example, is true with the negative stuff as well. Because what's going to happen in the scenario that you described with him, right? So he's plays his scenario back, he worries about it. What's going to happen in his interviews? He's probably going to bring that energy of like, oh, what if, what if, what if? So he's not going to show up the way he probably would otherwise. And he may make it such that it comes out as doubtful. So that would give a reason to whoever
For
is
them
hiring
to
to like,
doubt him.
exactly, to question it.
Yeah.
So again, it doesn't have to go to the woo stuff. If you're someone that's like kind of on the fence with that, and be like, just think about logically what happens then. Like when I have a negative thought, it goes to a negative feeling, negative action, negative result. Now, negative can be anything here, right? Even if negative means just slightly worse than I could have done if I had a positive thought, that's enough to swing the pendulum on what your result is.
That's exactly right, and that's why I like to think of it as building a bonfire. The thing that you want a new job, I think of it as, like, let's build a fire, and then, the more thought, the more energy, emotion, especially emotion is really important, that you put into that thing that you're building, the fire, the bigger the fire gets, right? You wanna build a big fire, but if you're, like, building this fire here, and then meanwhile you're building another fire somewhere else, which is like, "Oh my gosh, what if they find me out?" Or, like, "What if they think I'm weird?" Or, you build a different fire as well, you put the energy into building a different fire, and that's the fire you get.
I love that. I love that. I don't know. I think it's like a Native American saying. It's like we all have like two wolves inside of us, and the one, I mean, one positive, one negative, and the one you feed the most is the one that's going to show up in your life and lead your life. And it's the same. It's beautiful analogy with the fire. It's like, which fire are you feeding the most?
Yeah, exactly. And then I also like to think of the analogy, trying on new clothes. So I used to hate trying on new clothes, but then I've come to realize, well, if you try on something new and you don't like it, then you can just take it off, right? Or if you try on something new and it's a little uncomfortable. So something that was kind of uncomfortable for me was red lipstick.
Okay.
It was like it feels a bit too bold, right? A bit too confident and, too eye-grabbing, attention-grabbing, and I don't really want to grab too much attention in public, especially with red lipstick. And then, I was like, "But what if I just, like, try wearing it every day until I feel more comfortable wearing red lipstick?" And then it got to the point where most days I go out, I wear red lipstick. So, it's like, just try on new thoughts, try on new beliefs just like you try on new clothes. If it doesn't work out for you, if it's not making you feel good, then take it off. You don't need to keep the belief, right? But if it is, then just keep wearing the belief until it's like a daily thing.
I love that analogy so, so much. And yeah, I pretty much say the same thing. Is like listening to our conversation right now, right? There's some thoughts that people will pick up, and some ideas like, oh, I want to try that and that. That's fine. Try it. If it doesn't work, toss it out. Keep what works for you, toss out the rest. You're not going to find anyone in this world that you're going to be like in 100% agreement with everything they do. So then that means it gives you freedom to just pick whatever you think may work for you. Give it a shot, like you said. Wear the clothes for a week or the lipstick for a week, and then toss it out. And what's really beautiful in the example you gave there, if it got me thinking back to a conversation I had with another guest many months ago now, and she mentioned something really cool, which was like when you try new clothes on and you don't like a shirt or a blouse or a skirt, whatever, do you throw the mirror out or do you change the shirt? And what most people do, like with the example that you gave as well, is like they'll wear something they don't like and they throw the mirror out so it doesn't show them back how bad it is for them. And that's with same with thoughts, right? We wear beliefs and thoughts that we don't agree with, that we know are not good for us. But then when the mirror shows that to us, we're like, yeah, this mirror goes away.
So what is the analogy in the mirror? So, like, when you throw away the mirror, what is the equivalent? What are you throwing away?
The reflection back, right? You don't get to see how bad it is
Ah.
for you.
So
Because
basically, you remove your ability to see the reality.
exactly. So you're
So
like,
so
you're
you're
going in.
saying you live in denial, basically.
Exactly, right? And that's what happens with limiting beliefs and with beliefs and with thoughts that we have. Because if you were to equal them to clothes, we wear those beliefs, we wear those thoughts as if they are the most important thing. And then when someone reflects them back to us, because people are mirrors, right? Like when I have a conversation with you, let's say we're close, or even we just met, and I see something I don't like about you, it's usually reflecting something back I don't like about myself. As a simple example. And that's what this mirroring is, right? So then that's why people push away people that make them uncomfortable, push away people that bring the truth to the surface, because it reminds them of the things they need to work on. And that's the mirroring effect.
That makes so much sense.
Right? And I love your analogy. So that's so many parts to it. Okay, Annie. Wow, we've talked about some really beautiful topics there, some really, really interesting stuff. And let's go back to the job search for a bit, because that's what you specialize in. What would you say is the biggest challenge people face when it comes to searching for a new job, to believing in themselves, to really going after it?
I think they have this fear. I don't know what's the cause of the fear. I perhaps it's really hard to pinpoint exactly what is this for everybody. I just know there's for some reason this underlying fear that if they go after the things that they want, especially like their passions and whatever they're gifted at, rather than being in a box that everyone tells them, if you want to make more money, then do software. Really? You know, like if you're so good at what you do, like you're like the best one in the world at what you do, they will pay you big money to do what you do, right? The people who are leading their field, the top industry experts, the household names, they make a lot of money, right? So, yeah, if you're mediocre at what you do, then okay, you'll make it average money. So, I think a lot of it is this lack of confidence. We think that confidence feels good and that we need confidence before we can start. But I've just gotten used to courage. Courage is not the same as confidence. So I'm really relating back to the story of like when I was hearing that voice in my head, you know, don't go straight to college, it's not the right path for you. And everyone is telling me what I should be doing instead. And I'm questioning myself because I'm 16 years old. I don't really know how the world works, right?
Mm.
Um, and people from the outside were looking at me like, oh, she has so much confidence. I didn't have confidence. I didn't know what I was doing. Confidence comes from knowing that what you're doing, you can create the results on command. You're so good, you can repeat the results, right? That's not the same as what I was feeling. I was feeling courage. And courage feels terrible. It feels absolutely horrible in your body. It feels like when I'm so scared of something new that I'm trying and I don't know if it's going to work out, my neck tenses up, my shoulders tense up, my chest gets tight, my heart's beating faster. My stomach is like maybe moving around. Something in my stomach just feels like it's moving around. My food won't digest. Like literally, like that's the physical sensation of courage in my body. And then I always thought that was just anxiety. I labeled that feeling as anxiety, and then I realized, wait, actually, that's courage.
And you know what's funny?
What?
Courage, excitement, and anxiety are pretty much the same coin, different sides. So some people will take what you felt I will label it anxiety, and it would be diagnosed as anxiety. And some people like yourself are able to be like, wait a second, I can turn that into power, which is your courage to face the fears and excitement, right? Because people talk about, like, let's say stage fright. They go up and they're so scared and so fearful and so anxious about going on the stage. But that's also excitement because you're not doing something that many people don't get to do. You're doing something that can change your life or may change your life or will change your life, right? So that's, I love that example because you somehow knew that intrinsically and you're able to harness the power of the courage and
That's
excitement.
right. And then it's not until you repeat that over and over again that one day the courage transforms into confidence.
Yeah. Because as you're talking about confidence, it's experience, really, right? Like you've
Yeah.
done it a few times, you come from a place of knowing, let's say, a place of experience, and that becomes confidence. Like, kind of like saying, okay, I'm really confident behind the wheel because I've driven hundreds of thousands of miles or kilometers. That's why I'm confident because I've been a good driver and I can get behind the wheel and I can do that. Was I confident the first day? No, like
No.
you said, you took courage to jump behind the wheel and drive.
Yeah. And so I want to give some advice on at least how to find that confidence while you're still in the courageous stage. So, I'm not scared about the job search process anymore. So it's a bit hard for me to give advice on that. But like what I've been working on since 26, so for 2 years now, is I've been learning piano. So I want to become a classically trained pianist. And I never learned piano as a kid, just started only at 26 years old as a total beginner. And people are telling me you can't learn piano, it's too late, to become world class you have to start as at 5 years old, these days maybe even 3 years old, right? And I'm just like, well, let me question that limiting belief and see where I am after 10,000 hours. But I'll admit I'm not confident this whole time, even till today. Courage. I've been practicing now. I think I'm at like 760 hours at this point. Okay, I keep track of my hours. 760 hours in, all I still feel is courage. It's not confidence. But what I've learned is I can pick things that are factual and true and say I'm confident about that to create the feeling of confidence. So, like, for example, I'm confident in my desire to learn piano.
Yes.
Yeah. See, I'm not confident I can play the piano great, but I'm confident that I have the desire to learn piano, right? I'm confident that 10 years from now, I will still be playing piano. So I have found things that are related to piano that aren't about like how good I am at it, but I'm confident. So maybe in the job search sense, you can take the same analogy and use it as like, I'm confident I want a better paying job. I'm confident I would like to make 100K. Like you can find confidence in that fact rather than whether you actually got the offer yet or not.
Yeah. And take it to the next level. I'm confident I deserve $100,000. I'm confident I can do anything I want and put my mind to it. And that builds up the confidence in whatever you're doing right now, even if
That's
you don't have it yet.
that's right.
Because the reality is, and you're proof of it, oh, such beautiful proof, you can do anything you want. The only thing stopping you is the boxes that society put around you and the boxes you put around yourself as a result of those boxes. Once you come outside of those and realize, wow, the world is a big place, I can do anything I want, I have the power to do anything I want, then there is no more anxiety and fear. You just have courage, like you said. And then that turns into confidence down the road.
That's right. And you have the permission to do anything that you want. I was always waiting for my parents to give me permission even as I was learning piano. For a whole year I learned it. I put 350 hours into it. And then I was like, when are my parents going to tell me, this is great, Annie, you have the permission to learn piano? And then I realized they're never going to give me permission. Nobody's ever going to give you permission because they don't care about you enough. They don't care. Like, the fact of the matter is, when we put our heads on our pillow at night and we go to sleep, we're not thinking about other people. We're not thinking about the problems other people have and things like that. Actually, we're only thinking about our own problems. So I like to remind myself that like people are not going to sleep and wondering, "Oh, is Annie going to finish like how's she going to end up with piano?" They're not falling asleep to those thoughts. So, um it helps me not care what other people say or think.
Yeah, yeah, that's very apparent through the path you took, and that's such a powerful path. Because see, I was the opposite. I cared so much about everyone's opinion and belief, My parents, my caretakers, my teachers, people in my life. So I was easily influenced by that to go through the traditional path and do all the things I did. Not so much anymore because, like you, I've come to the light and I realized, wait a second, the only opinion that matters is my own. And if I don't trust my opinion yet, that means there's work to be done and we can get there.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, Annie. Wow, I could talk to you for hours, but in the interest of time, let's see. I'll ask you one more thing. We've talked a lot about different beautiful things here. Is there anything that comes up for you that you'd like to share with the audience that's perhaps top of mind, or maybe you're getting a message from your guides? So this has to be said.
Yeah, I just want to warn everyone that the economy isn't doing so well. So it's really important to be mindful of your finances. A lot of banks are in hot trouble right now. They're having liquidity issues. 700 banks have been borrowing money from the Fed to stay afloat. So it's not safe to have your money in the bank. It is really important to have your money physically. So that means in cash and in gold because, well, specifically gold because people, governments can just keep printing more and more money. And so your money, the physical cash, can become valueless as well. But gold has been around for thousands of years. It has survived empires. So take a look into that. It's really important to hear this message right now before it's too late to do anything about it.
Yeah. Okay. Powerful, powerful stuff, Annie. I want to thank you so much for your time today, all the wisdom, all the beautiful conversations. It's been a pleasure.
Constantine, thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of personal transformation. Your presence and engagement are at the heart of what we do, and I sincerely appreciate you, your time, and thirst for knowledge, inspiration, and empowerment. Please consider showing your support by hitting like, subscribe, leaving a comment, or writing a review. Your engagement not only fuels our mission, but also helps others discover these insights. For more daily guidance on personal transformation across the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical realms, be sure to visit our website at unleashthyself.com. You can also find us on Instagram at Unleash Thyself Today, TikTok and YouTube at Unleash Thyself, and there we post daily content designed to inspire and empower you on your journey. If you have any specific thoughts, questions, or feedback, I truly value your input. Or if you'd like to have a conversation with me or work with me, please feel free to email me directly at constantine@unleashthyself.com. I would love to hear from you. Together, we're building a community united in authenticity and purpose. Once again, thank you for being a part of this movement. Until next time, continue to embrace your true self and live a life on purpose, with purpose. See you in the next episode.